The initial plans for CM Punk's second All Elite Wrestling World Championship reign have indeed been revealed. We have an update on Jon Moxley facing a former New Japan Pro Wrestling foe on Dynamite this coming Wednesday. Has Jungle Boy undergone a permanent name change in All Elite Wrestling? Saraya possibly calls out an opponent for an upcoming match in AEW, and an update on Darby Allin, Brody King, and specifically Julia Hart after a scary Rampage bump. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling. So let's start off talking about CM Punk. We don't talk about CM Punk enough here on the channel, do we, when it comes to AEW recently? Well, we have a bit of an update. I say an update. It's logical. It's logical what this story is, but nevertheless, it's been reported, so you know me, we'll talk about it, we'll share our opinions. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, what you think about it and what you think about all of the AEW news that we're going to get into today. So, latest reports have emerged suggesting that the initial plan for the main event of AEW All Out was different, as CM Punk was actually scheduled to defend the title originally against MJF. So, of course, that's slightly different as to what indeed happened. Now, All Out's main event, of course, saw Punk take on Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. After an interesting battle, the Second City Savior became the world champion for a second time in his hometown of Chicago. Now, of course, after Punk won that match, MJF appeared as the masked Joker and won the casino ladder match earlier on in the show. But as per the Wrestling Observer radio show, the original plan was to close the show with Friedman challenging CM Punk for the AEW World Championship. However, these plans did not materialize as the former WWE star, of course, Punk suffered that foot injury. He was forced to vacate his bout shortly after Double or Nothing, with the 43-year-old's timely return before All Out had question marks written all over it. The company decided to crown an interim world champion. Now, as far as MJF is concerned, it is also not known if the star would have been on a 3-month absence if Punk had not injured himself. It's unknown to the date of his pipe bomb promo if it was a planned segment or if it was sparked out of real life issues. There's kind of a lot of discussion that people don't really know too much about at the moment. Now, of course, since then, after that, it didn't go well for CM Punk. His second world title win was overshadowed by the events that subsequently followed. Obviously, there was a major controversy in the All Out media scrum where he ranted about the Elite, the AEW Executive Vice Presidents, Scott Colton, Colt Cabana, Hangman Page, while sitting right next to the AEW President and CEO Tony Khan. And then because of that, the comments did not go down well with the likes of the Bucks and Kenny Omega, who then confronted Punk backstage. The confrontation led to a backstage brawl, which involved throwing chairs, punching, biting. As a result, all men were stripped of their respective titles and currently remain suspended from the company at the time of the recording of this video. So the original plan, by all accounts, for AEW All Out was to do CM Punk versus MJF for the AEW World Championship. Now, again, it must be said, things changed a lot during the summer, and I think that timing was everything. I think the original plan was, and if you go back to Double or Nothing, it kind of does make sense that Punk was supposed to win the AEW World Championship, right? He does that. He beats Hangman Page. On the subsequent episode of Dynamite, that was the one where MJF did the shoot promo, did the work shoot promo on Tony Khan. Now, you didn't see this actually on camera, but once they cut to break after MJF called Khan an effing mark and said, "Fire me, blah, blah, blah," who ran out to chase him off? It was CM Punk. Now, it was very visible in those videos that were posted to social media that when he was chasing off MJF, he was already limping because CM Punk had broken his foot earlier on in the evening by doing those stage dives. He dived into the crowd, he hit his foot on the guardrail, and his foot essentially exploded. It shattered. Punk then wrestled a match which made it 10 times worse. So, as per the report, what we don't really know is, was MJF actually supposed to go on a 3-month hiatus? Was he supposed to go on essentially the same hiatus that CM Punk went on? It might have been that originally the plan was for Punk to chase MJF off. MJF would be off television for a couple of weeks at most, maybe until after Forbidden Door, because of course Punk was supposed to face Tanahashi at Forbidden Door, and logically you would say actually the plan probably was, looking at this, was that Punk MJF does his promo, he's off television, suspended, he's disappeared for a little bit. Punk then wrestles Tanahashi at Forbidden Door at the United Center. He beats Tanahashi, and then after that match, that's where MJF comes out, attacks Punk, or sets up the AEW World Championship match at All Out. Clearly, that's probably the plan. However, with Punk being injured, Punk's off television for a couple of months. They think, well, we might as well keep MJF off television for a couple of months. During that time, Jon Moxley's then crowned the interim world champion. So they think, well, whenever Punk comes back, we've got to do this undisputed championship match between Punk and Moxley, which they then do on Dynamite. But I think very quickly it became clear, no, we've got to do that at All Out because that feels like a big match. That could be a big match. And it was a big match. Looking back now, and I know it's very easy to look at these things in hindsight, knowing what happened with Punk and knowing what happened with the brawl and the suspensions and the injury, it must be said. Punk's injured right now as well. As in addition to being suspended, he's also on the shelf for 9 months with a torn tricep. So that's another part of it. But in hindsight, it wasn't the right thing to do that match on Dynamite. It didn't pop a big number between Punk and Moxley. And now we've got a situation where there've been so many short title reigns of Moxley winning it from Punk and then dropping it just a week later to Punk and then winning it 2 or 3 weeks later this past week on the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite. And Moxley's not going to hold the championship very long because he is eventually going to drop it to MJF as well. So there you've got sort of 4 title reigns that were very, very short, and that does devalue the World Championship. And you would logically think because of that, MJF, when he wins the World Championship, he's going to hold it for a long time because we have to have a long reign. So it is kind of fun to look back and think, what if? I mean, also, Meltzer mentions that the plan after All Out was to do CM Punk versus MJF. Well, duh. Clearly that was the plan because you look at how the pay-per-view ended. You've got CM Punk holding up the AEW World Championship, and then you've got MJF at the top of the ramp with the casino chip, and he's just made his return. So clearly that was the plan. But this whole year, really, I mean, especially when you get into the sort of the spring and the summer months, just talk about being snake bit. AEW has just not had the year it wanted. I think, you look at AEW from the beginning of this year to around sort of Revolution, it felt like they still had decent momentum at that period of time. Revolution was a decent show. You had Punk versus MJF in that dog collar match, which was excellent. You had the formation of the Blackpool Combat Club with Danielson and Moxley. Even you had Thunder Rosa winning the AEW Women's World Championship in a main event match on the St. Patrick's Day Slam edition of Dynamite. It felt like there was some momentum still there. Wasn't as hot, was not anywhere near as hot as it was this time last year, certainly, but it felt like they still had momentum. And of course, WWE, whilst they had a good WrestleMania, they still had the Vince McMahon poor booking and some talent not being happy with management there. So it felt like AEW was still doing well, but you look on that 3 or 4 month span of the summer of the injuries to everyone, whether it was Punk, Danielson, Omega was still injured, Adam Cole got injured, all of that kind of stuff. And then the chaos with Punk, with the Young Bucks, with Hangman Page and this, that, and the other. And it's all just exploded up. And you do feel like you've got this little reset going on of All Elite Wrestling right now. Talk about a snake bit year for them. And it is interesting to look back and think, what if? And what did they have planned? So that's kind of the update when it comes to Punk. Of course, when it comes to any update about his employment status with AEW, we haven't heard anything. There hasn't been much in the last few days about the ongoing third-party investigation. The Bucks, Omega, Punk, A-Steel, they are all suspended. As mentioned, the only thing we'd heard about Punk was that opinion from Wade Keller that he felt like Punk had wrestled his last match and there was a possible contract buyout situation going on. We spoke about that on the channel. Apart from that, we don't really have much when it comes to an update about Punk. If we get it, we'll talk about it here on the channel. Now, speaking of the AEW World Championship and the new AEW World Champion, Jon Moxley, he's going to be in action this coming Wednesday on Dynamite. Now, earlier this year, the main event of New Japan Pro Wrestling's Capital Collision pay-per-view in Washington, D.C. saw Juice Robinson win the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship for the third time in a four-way match over defending champion Hiroshi Tanahashi, Will Ospreay, and Jon Moxley. Now, Robinson and Moxley, the newly crowned AEW World Champion, will now go one-on-one in All Elite Wrestling. AEW President and CEO Tony Khan took to social media to announce that Robinson will make his AEW debut on this coming Wednesday's Dynamite to wrestle Moxley in a non-title contest. They're calling it a World Championship, a world title eliminator match as well. So if Robinson wins, somehow he's going to get an opportunity at the AEW World Championship. As I mentioned, if Robinson does defeat Moxley, he will earn a shot at the championship. Now, Robinson is one of only 2 men to defeat Moxley this year, with the other being the recently suspended Punk. It was interesting, very interesting, that on the AEW tweet that kind of announced this or was hyping this up, they said, Moxley's going to face one of the 2 men to defeat him this year. It's Juice Robinson. Conveniently, they didn't mention the other name who's defeated him, CM Punk, because they don't want to talk about CM Punk right now. So Robinson's going to face Moxley on Wednesday. Now, of course, Robinson isn't the only one looking for an AEW World Championship match. Obviously, on the Grand Slam edition of Rampage, Hangman Adam Page won that Golden Ticket Battle Royal. He's going to have a shot at the title on the October 18 episode of Dynamite. MJF, of course, by virtue of winning that casino ladder match at the All Out pay-per-view, can cash in his poker chip for an AEW World title match whenever he pleases. Also, I saw some criticism about this match, saying it's random and it's just put together and this, that, and the other, and that is a criticism that's put towards Tony Khan and AEW a lot, isn't it? That they just have random matches, or they don't have matches with a story behind it. And sometimes that's fair, but also I would say that is kind of a pro wrestling show. When you have week-to-week television, not every match has a story, and in this case, there is a legitimate story. There's a story behind it. They told you the story behind it is that Juice Robinson beat the world champion earlier this year. Only 2 men have defeated Moxley this year. Juice Robinson's one of them, so logically, have Juice Robinson face Moxley, and if he can beat him, then he gets a title opportunity. He's not. As I just mentioned, there are 2 people that are definitely going to get world title matches. Hangman, which Moxley's going to win, and eventually MJF, and MJF's going to win that match and become the AEW World Champion. But as far as, it's a match, I think, with stakes this Wednesday, and the story is there. The story does make sense. They explained the story, and it'll be a good match. I don't see it as a random, it's just completely random. Some of Moxley's matches he was having when he was the interim world champion were absolutely random. A really, really enjoyable match he had against Roosh, I thought was fantastic. Was it on Fight for the Fallen or Fighter Fest? One of them. And it was fantastic, but that was random. I remember the one we had with that, I can't forget the talent's name off the top of my head, but when it was their first appearance in AEW and they could possibly get a shot on an AEW World Championship match. That was random. This is not random. That is not the criticism to be levied toward this, in my opinion. Jungle Boy. Is Jungle Boy going to be known as Jungle Boy Jack Perry going forward? Well, there have been conflicting reports regarding a potential name change for one of AEW's rising stars this month. Of course, ahead of his grudge match with Christian Cage at AEW All Out, Jungle Boy and Christian had a sit-down interview in which Jungle Boy claimed that Christian wouldn't be wrestling Jungle Boy, he'd be fighting Jack Perry. Of course, this comes after Christian threw all of those insults at Perry's family, including his late father, his mother, his sister. Now, Jungle Boy, of course, was announced as Jungle Boy Jack Perry for the match, which ultimately consisted of 2 moves after Luchasaurus betrayed him and aligned with Christian Cage once again. On this week's edition of AEW Rampage Grand Slam, Jungle Boy wrestled Rey Fenix on the show, picking up a victory. On the show, however, he was once again announced as Jungle Boy Jack Perry, leading fans to believe that he had officially had his name changed. However, per Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, Jungle Boy is still listed as simply Jungle Boy internally in AEW and not as Jack Perry. Now, Christian Cage made his first AEW appearance since All Out on the show, when he confronted Jungle Boy on the show before ordering Luchasaurus to attack him once again. So that Jungle Boy Christian Cage feud isn't over, but Christian Cage can't wrestle because he's injured. So we're going to be building clearly towards a Jungle Boy versus Luchasaurus match. I think he should change the name, honestly. Look, Jungle Boy's a great name, but eventually he's not going to be a boy. And there is a lot of cachet in his last name. People know who Luke Perry was. People, and by proxy, they'll know who Jack Perry was. So being called Jungle Boy Jack Perry, I think, Jim Ross has said it forever, since the opening Dynamite shows, maybe even before that, he's always called him Jungle Boy Jack Perry, Jungle Boy Jack Perry. I think that makes more sense. I prefer that, honestly, than Jungle Boy. Really, I do. If you say, who's that? Sometimes that people that aren't wrestling fans, and this is always the biggest example of this. If you say someone that isn't a wrestling fan, they'll go, who's that? What's his gimmick and what's his name? You go, it's Jungle Boy. And they go, really? Jungle Boy? But if you go, his name's Jungle Boy Jack Perry, he's Luke Perry's son, blah, blah, blah. They'll go, okay, that's cool. It feels more real to me. And sometimes in AEW, a lot of stuff doesn't feel real sometimes. Sometimes even Jungle Boy's matches, his offense is more on the lucha side of things, and sometimes it can't feel real. So I think that You know, he should be called Jungle Boy Jack Perry, in my opinion. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts. Comment section below. Saraya, which we actually were not saying this properly, isn't it? Saraya or Ray? I think it's Saraya. I think is the correct way to pronounce it. Her name. But of course, she made her debut this past week on Dynamite, the Grand Slam episode of Dynamite from Arthur Ashe Stadium. Now, she arrived after the interim AEW Women's Championship match on the show, chasing off Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, and Rebel during their attack on Toni Storm and Athena. Now, reports emerged that Saraya had not been cleared to wrestle for the company, but Saraya herself seemed to actually dispel those rumors on social media. We spoke about this yesterday, be sure to check it out, announcing that she would speak on next week's edition of AEW Dynamite. She's also taken to Twitter to tease a potential match in the company against Jamie Hayter, saying, quote, "Hi," at Jamie Hayter. Jamie responded to Saraya's tweet saying, quote, "Hey, ... mate." So that is one of the latest things being announced for the show. Again, the way that she was presented on television last week, I said this yesterday, but the way she was presented on television, Taz says she can flat out go and, you know, she chased off the people from the ring. And in fact, she's been listed on the company website with a win-loss record of obviously 0-0 at this point because she hasn't had a match. Gives me an indication she's going to wrestle. It really, really does. And I know that, as I mentioned, Dave Meltzer said recently, up until recently, she hadn't been cleared. But that's not to say she's not cleared right now. And I look back to when Sting signed with AEW, and there were numerous reports that Sting wasn't going to wrestle. He hadn't been cleared to wrestle. He was wrestling just a couple of weeks later at the Revolution pay-per-view. And initially it was in a cinematic match, but now he's wrestling a lot. He wrestled this past week in Arthur Ashe Stadium for the second year in a row. He's going to be traveling to Japan to be part of the Great Muta's last match also in January of next year. So things can change very quickly. Again, my only thing with it, and I've kind of softened on this when it's come to people with previous injuries, is that if they can get cleared by their doctors and the doctors of the company as well, because you can get sort of sometimes questionable doctors, especially if you can go around to certain doctors. But if she can get cleared by her own doctors and then AEW's physicians as well, more power to her. And certainly the presentation felt like Saraya was going to be wrestling for AEW. So time will tell with that. And I don't know whether she's going to announce that this coming week on Dynamite. I know that some people said, well, she didn't get physical during her debut on Wednesday. Well, why would she? Why would you waste that? If one of the big question marks surrounding her is she going to wrestle, why would you give that away at the same time of her debut? Have them chase it off. And then if she gets physical in a couple of weeks' time or whatever, that's going to go, or don't let her get physical until she has the match. Why would you give away any physicality before having her first match? That doesn't make any sense. So time will tell when it comes to that. Speaking of Rampage on Friday, we saw some really sort of scary spots in that match involving the aforementioned Sting. Now, on the Grand Slam edition of Rampage, Darby Allin and Sting took on Buddy Matthews and Brody King of the House of Black in a brutal no disqualification tag team match. Allin and Sting were busted open. House of Black member Julia Hart took a nasty fall off the apron. And I say nasty, basically, she got I think the mist went into Buddy Matthews' eyes, I believe, and then he sort of knocks Julia Hart off the apron, and there's a table there. It's essentially the same spot that like Stephanie McMahon did at WrestleMania 33, where the person goes into them and they sort of they don't jump off, they fall off the apron and they just land through the table. But for whatever reason, Julia Hart decided not to fall off, but to jump off, and she basically missed the table. You can see it right there on the screen. She barely clips it and just lands headfirst on concrete. She doesn't land on the mat. You can see the exposed part of the concrete. She landed headfirst on it. It was a nasty, nasty bump. Thankfully, all seemed to be okay, though. King took to Twitter to make light about his aching back. Allin also took to Twitter to provide an update on his head wound. He revealed a photo that he required at least 5 staples, but said it was worth it. King also provided an update on Hart, saying that she made it out safely, thanking everyone for their concern. When Hart was knocked off the apron, as I mentioned, her entire upper body went over rather than through a table, causing her head to slap on the concrete floor. Although the match will be remembered for its brutality, it will also be remembered for a surprise debut that led to the table spot from Hart. As I mentioned, the Great Muta did a run-in. This was kind of a teaser for the last match that he's on, currently on this retirement tour, Muta. He had come to AEW to work with his old rival Sting. Instead of attacking Sting, Muta blew mist into the eyes of Buddy Matthews, which knocked him into Hart and sent her flying off the apron. Sting took advantage and won the match for his team. So there you go. That's an update on Julia Hart. And everyone involved in that match, they're all fine, thankfully. Every time you watch a Sting match, you still go, please. Especially with the spots he's doing. He's diving through tape. It's madness. Absolute madness. But there you go, guys. That's the latest AEW news stories for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's AEW news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.